Comedy is vulnerability. And if you really want drama, or you really want story, and you really want to move hearts and minds, you can make them cry. You have opened up the brain to this character. You could take a despicable character, and if that despicable character can make the audience laugh, you suddenly care so much more than you ever wanted to. And maybe despite yourself, you're hooked on this person because we are all human.
Ask you a question about personal style, but I think after seeing some of your productions, I started to just really focus on the fact that you really enjoy a certain amount of intimacy, almost to the point of voyeurism. And that's just maybe me projecting, but there's also something interesting too. I'm not sure if you're familiar with like Jerry Lewis films, but like he would go and be really goofy, and then at the end he would drop in and he would just be really, really human, and you would have that moment that just sort of tugged at your heart. And it seems like there's something about your work that does that to me. Can you speak more to that?
Oh yeah, man, you're getting into the good stuff now, because it's not so surface, and I just assume no one's going to know any of the work you're talking about, so it's going to feel very abstract. But I love this conversation, and I can describe it succinctly. I've never heard it put that way. Comedy is vulnerability, and if you really want drama, or you really want story, and you really want to move hearts and minds, my opinion is all the pretension. At one point, the style's great. You could have 18,000 layers of style, but somehow the pretension behind that style, making someone laugh or having them see themselves, is the only currency you have. And then we can talk about what makes a good story. But if you really want to cut deep, and that's why I'm sort of done with miserablest cinema. It's not that you can't tell a good story that way, but the best of dramatic storytelling is when I think the artists and the creators and the talent know and feel. Without the darkness, there's no light. All of it is contained with that. All of physics, all of storytelling. And if you do not dare, and it's just like a sustained note, it's just like, or anything else, something, an image with all contrast and no shading. And it was sort of like, and then comedy is what sticks it together. The more you make them laugh, the more they do. You have ready. You can make them cry. Now you are you have opened up the brain to this character. You could take a despicable character, and if that despicable character can make the audience laugh, you suddenly care so much more than you ever wanted to, and maybe despite yourself, you're hooked on this person because we are all human, and things that just pretend we aren't are just this distant escapism, and they're emptier calories than ever before. So what I've always been about is just make the most of what you have. If you gave me a lot of money, half of what you described is just having to work within your means. And I've always been proving out the other adage, which is just sort of like, look, if you know how you want your audience to feel, it's scalable and it's achievable. It's really hard to know that and feel that because you're usually attached to a style or, it's conceived somehow, and that's not the way every creative challenge is opened or fulfilled. But if you know how you want your audience to feel, and it was like, it's scalable and it's achievable. So it's like the art of art is now figuring out how quickly can I get that out of me and transform that feeling or that story to the audience. And all of my work that's personal, I don't know about the professional work, but all the work even professional work, I try and steer it this way because I know that's how we're going to endear people, by not feeling too slick, by making it feel like it was happening for the first time, by having the rough draft be the one that hits you. And I think that's a gift, whether you're shooting with your iPhone or with 100 people on set. And I try and bring that now equally creatively to both of those spaces, which is a crazy new challenge for myself, but I love it. Those are no different. It just took not fearing the process to see that clearly. Sorry, my hands aren't even on our beautiful chipstick.
So, Adam, do you think you would feel more handcuffed if you were given a lot of money then, as opposed to working with less and trying to be more?
Amounts to do it. No, when I shoot a commercial, I'm happier than ever because I'm actually supported. It's so much easier. Working with money is so much easier, and it's never enough. Let's be really clear. Working with money, I've never had enough money. I don't care. That's the job. I find out what I eventually have. And then there's a really hard conversation, or sometimes not so hard, where you turn around at the person who's right next to you and responsible for that. And you go, okay, I can talk about what I can do for that. Is someone willing to hear that and listen to that conversation? And you find out where you're at. And it was sort of like, but if you're not willing to have that conversation, or you don't know what that is, you're very exposed. And that's not necessarily the director's job even. The producer should be protecting them. And so it gets really fun when you have producers and I'm not producing my own work, because I get to turn around and it's a much shorter conversation. I go, yeah, whatever you want. Like, Keanu Reeves has a really cool thing I've read. You can't do that as a director all the time. It's like, you really care. And what I tend to say, and it's mostly true, but it's really good for me, especially client facing. I think it's good for everyone to be this way, which is, I serve the creative. They can't think I'm in it for the money. They can't think I'm in it for my reel. They can't think I'm in it for, maybe my reel because I'm speaking for the creative, but really the creative in truth and what it wants and what I think my real job is. And if I'm always speaking to that, no matter who I'm speaking to, stakeholders or not, anyone on the crew, if I'm just speaking to the creative and what's possible, I let everyone else answer all the other questions and they get to make the hard decisions. And that's, I think, the way it should be. Especially when art and commerce are mixed so hard and you have a lot of stakeholders. You're like, look, I'm not going to be the last voice in the room, but I will tell you what I think the creative wants to be. And some people here are going to tell you exactly what that costs. And then I'll tell you what's possible. Like, let's talk about it. And sometimes it's hard. It's easier in work now for me to have those harder conversations. What I find is amazing is going, all these things apply to real life as well. And I'm going, oh, shit. And I'm just realizing all these life skills I learned on set are actually the way we should be in real life. Honest with everybody, let them deal with the consequences, sit here and be uncomfortable yet comfortable with their uncomfort.
Right.
I'm great at that in art. I'm not great at that in my life because I want everyone to be happy all the time, not just my crew. I always want the crew to be happy. I can only lay down for them so much. We've got the day, we've got to work. But everyone appreciates that shit. That's not the problem. It's never the day and the work. It's the attitude. I provide a good at it. The way I direct, and not everyone directs this way, but I try and really set the environment, really have it be light and funny and voyeuristic, let everybody in, but also that much more when I get serious or I'm down to a moment or we need, you better believe. Because they've been given all that leash, it goes exactly. It is not a loosey-goosey set. Some ADs I work with are often surprised if they haven't worked with me before. If they thought they needed to be that person, they realize, oh, I am that person. They're like, I thought you were just the happy-go-lucky stoner guy. I'm like, I know. Isn't that amazing? It's like Clark Kent and Superman. It was like, where the fuck was this guy? I was like, I'm just waiting for my moment. Like you just can't be that person all the time. But then on set, when time is money and art is art and heads are heads and everyone's being shrunk, you got to make it light. You got to give them confidence.
Yeah, that's a really interesting skill set to have is to be able to be relaxed enough on set because the vibes you put out there will be felt and ripple throughout the crew, and so to get the best out of everybody, it all relies on you. So it's not just directing behind the lens, it's not just directing and blocking actors.
Vibe. But let's make no mistake. It's just the vibe I choose, and I don't think we realize that we have a choice. I didn't know I was making a choice when I became that kind of an artist. I think I've worked for, and I think. And I think we all have worked with people who get great work through their exactingness, through the precision of their vision, through the fact that, and this is the difference between, I think, treating our ideas and our work like our children versus our ideas and our work, which is not healthy in the long run, but it makes total sense, especially early in your career when it really is desperate and it's your first baby and fucking elbows out, baby. Nothing's going to get in my way. You want it to live, you want it to have a great life, and you start to realize that it's outside of yourself and that you just believe in it. And you're going, no, you can walk. He's walking. You love your project. So it makes sense to think of it as a person, but it's not, or a baby or an animal. It's not. Ideas are seeds, and they don't belong to us. They belong to the fucking universe. And then you get really excited when you have them because you're like, fucking, they don't belong in your pocket where they certainly don't grow. And then what can you do? Yeah, okay, it might be an oak. Let's plant it. Let's water it. Okay, bring a community. I want to make a fence. Okay, but there's only so nature at one point has to take over, and it's not entirely on us. You don't take it personally when the tomato doesn't grow. It breaks your heart, but you know that there are just more seeds, and the more that you plant, the more oaks you will grow. These are facts. And if you treat everything so precious, then you hoard it. You can't create that way. But listen, great oaks are grown that way, and there are magnificent beasts, whatever you want to call them. Finchers be finching. It's like there will always be people who want to work and crawl inside those beautiful minds. They're willing to pay with their body because it's a privilege to be there. You give up a certain control and autonomy as an artist when you decide to work with artists, or you're empowered to do your very best work that you've ever done. There is no one experience, but that is a generalization. There's I'm going to pay for this with my soul, but I'm actually going to grow through that and learn. And then there's the more band mentality, which is or I don't know what you want to call it, but look, I'd much rather conduct a symphony personally than have every single person have to play it the way exactly I would play it. And if I've done my job right, no one can fuck up. And the beautiful lattice that I've created grows in ways I could never have expected. And what I see is the structure I laid down and the pride of knowing that it could have existed and getting to be a part of that. That's at its best. And it's such a different way of approaching creativity. And it's different depending on how many people you have to work with or how much money and resources you need to make that happen. Sorry, that was 5 tears. Yeah.
No, that's great. You said you keep saying the band thing, and I wanted to sort of relay back to that. It's like, do you work with the same crew on every project? I mean, you have a studio, right? I don't know if it's
no, every project is bespoke. So there's Bodega Studios, which is a beautiful place to make where brands come to make commercials, or you'd have things where you want to make social media or show opens or things that have a co-branded aspect that for network television where it's this is a fun factory, but it's like agency style, right? And I love doing that kind of work because if you're not writing the brief, you get the brief, and it's very straightforward. So that becomes its own band. But every single project, even Bodega projects, or there's production, and all of production, even the movie studios or whatever, is casting. And what you have is who you're going to pull off the bench for this. And so that's one side of the business. Then there's my personal side, which is I try and make every project now. I didn't know this forever. It was like, look, I'm entering a new moment. I'm writing multiple screenplays at once, but I'm really trying to focus one at a time. But I've discovered about myself as an artist, it was like, look, it'd be easy. I'm going to hyper focus. It's beautiful to be able to dive in and go deep. I love having things that are really difficult, long puzzles that take years of work. My feature film was that way. It took years to get out, but it was made for almost nothing. And then watching it go in theaters, watching it become distributed, watching it win a few awards and have that journey, that red carpet journey was beautiful to me. I believe in that because it was successful for being. So I want my projects that I create that are personal to be successful. Little like children. It's the after. I want them to grow, just like the seeds. So I'm letting go of that analogy and I'm moving into this going like, look, I also have to accept that some of them won't. But what I really am doing, it's like spinning that, working on them, being free of the ego that was overconnected to these kind of ideas that I had before allows them to be even bigger. And so I had a point when I started, and then I did a beautiful little soliloquy, and I ended up someplace else.
Well, I was going to ask a similar question because you were referencing the band, and you are talking about
the band.
This group of people that you work with, and I want to know from you, what makes a good collaborator? What are you looking for?
You're the perfect collaborator.
Without me,
because I keep coming back to you. No. But I'll use you as an example because you're like a beautiful little Rosetta Stone for all these other great collaborators. So I like to work with friends. I like the people who can tolerate this. This isn't for everybody, for starters. So, and I think this is important for anyone. It was like, it's not about what I like. It was like for each artist, I think you have to ask yourself, it was like, who do I feel comfortable around? We were talking about creating an atmosphere on the set. I'm just showing I'm comfortable in this position. And that the captain of the ship, there's always, imagine Johnny Depp, up there. He's a little drunk. I was like, I think he's fucking got it. If he wasn't, I might be fucking worried because it's a fucking ship and the ship's going to fucking go down. So I love, the collaborators like you, Lance, really listen. And I need listeners because I have a lot to say. And that's a hard thing to sort of say out loud. It makes me sound selfish. But what's amazing about you are my best collaborators. And I know this is because this is my band. And they just come in. We're like a rotating band. It's more like E Street style. You take that and you turn it into your magic. Anyone who does one of the jobs with me has to be better at that job than me myself. And I've done almost every job now. So if you can't at least be better than me, you don't belong there. That's just bad casting. Okay. Sure. But if you bring we'll go back to the music thing. If you bring a sound and an instrument that this needs, whatever it is, however big and small, you become precious to me. Precious. Instantly. And that's a greedy creator in me, but it's also, I think, a gift to the people I collaborate with because I see you. And isn't that what we all want to do? There's too much of wanting to be seen, but I'm actually one of the few people actually empowered to do it because I'm greedy that way. So if I see your talent, my spicy brain wants to use it. And with you, Lance, it's always, we've got such a shorthand now. And Shane, you're a magician. We just started working together. It's what's beautiful is saying, we don't even realize how much shorthand we have because we've done it for so long. You still put up with me. It doesn't make the process any shorter. You always turn it into, I see, I mean, we could do side by side here. If we want to go really deep and you have the editing capacity, I could do side by sides of 2 or 3 very big spots right now. Let's play them where the board is identical. Identical to the spot. This is Lance's board, and there's a real humility here. You want to know what I look for in a good collaborator? A better director. Look at what's happening. Lance directed, though. Now, look, it's a process. I did a shot list. I got on the phone and talked for an hour and a half. We talked through every single frame. He questions all my nonsense words and things where I completely 180 what I just said because I had a better idea. And he's like, does that replace the thing you just spent 10 minutes describing? I'm like, yeah. All of that happens, but what I get is he directed a version of the spot. Now, I'm always looking to just blow that up and improve it on set. I'm not I don't make storyboards I make it so everyone leaves me alone and they have something to do on set, which is cross it off. I never look at the boards again. It's like making notes in class, so you never have to look at them. I do that just so everyone goes, oh, I know it's going to be real. And then, but what's so fun for me is I now owe them, and this is the contract I have in the commercial side of what I do that I don't owe at all on the personal side, or I might in different degrees on my personal work to myself or to the team, which is I owe every one of your frames, Lance. There's a reason they look just like that because it's my promise was, well, if we went to the bother and then we took the notes and then we revised them, if there were notes.
Yeah.
Now they better goddamn look like that. And then all the extra stuff is shot too. And it was like, but it's amazing. So great collaborators improve the project. They add value. It's really simple. And you enjoy working with them, however small or long term. And that's hard to do. And some roles are just like brake pads. And I hate to say that, except that like there are some roles where it's so taxing on that relationship that they're designed to be short.
Shane and I really appreciate you guys tuning into our YouTube channel today. If you enjoyed this short conversation and would like to see the entire interview, then please head on over to our Substack, where you'll not only find all of our full-length interviews, but a ton of super interesting posts that we've created just for you guys. Link is in the description box below. So until next time, thanks for watching.